Welcome to the Fatherhood Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Pluff. Each week, we will cover various topics that dads struggle with in their fitness journey. I'll give you actionable steps that you can apply right away, not only to take back control of your own health, but so you're able to be a better example for your kids too. All right, welcome to today's episode of the Fatherhood Fitness Podcast. We have a very fun episode today with Dorota Soto. She is a TikTok and Instagram star. She makes a lot of great reels. So I will put her information in the show notes so you can go check her out. But I'll let her introduce herself and then we'll get started.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm not on TikTok, but I love doing reels, that's for sure. Thanks so much for having me here. So like you said, my name is Dorota Soto, and I am online personal trainer and nutrition coach. And I work with high achieving women. And my really mission is to teach them how to become healthy, happy, and fitter version of themselves without any guilt, restrictions, an hour at the gym, so they can really confidently show up in their career and life.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so we work with kind of totally different groups there, but I think there's a lot of commonalities between the two. You mentioned right out the get-go there about enjoying themselves, like enjoying foods guilt-free. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like, and yeah, I can kind of relate more to women, obviously, but I feel like we all struggle with that especially when we're trying to improve our health or lose weight or whatever that is we're working on. There's so much guilt around food. We kind of set those intentions in the beginning of the day or in the beginning of the week that we're going to be eating a certain way, and then one thing's not going to go our way, and then we just constantly beat ourselves up. And that's kind of become like this diet cycle and this this cycle that we just cannot get out. And instead of having this one setback to like, okay, it is what it is and move forward, it kind of really bring us back to the very beginning. So I feel like I've struggled with that for so many years. And I know a lot of people in my circle, not only my clients, struggle with that. So I feel like that's very important to kind of pass and move through through that feeling of guilt, constant feeling of guilt.
Yeah. I think that's really common, especially with I would say adults. I think this is more common. I think it starts at a young age. Obviously you kind of learn how to eat from your parents, or you kind of adopt their habits, and it's your responsibility as you get older to kind of change those. But a lot of us don't. We kind of have learned one thing, this is how we do it, and then we teach those to our kids as well. So for someone who does struggle, I've gone through this myself too, where I do really good for a while, and then like I'm staying on track, and it's almost like there's that resistance where I feel like I'm doing really good, and then because I'm doing really good, it makes me want to not do so good. It's like almost like I'm afraid to kind of disassociate who I used to be to kind of who I'm becoming. So how do you work with your clients when they're kind of struggling with that?
I think the first thing is to really realize that all of this that we're really talking about is really being this either all or nothing approach. And very often when we get stuck into it, it really leads us to nothing rather than all, right? In the end of the day. So first, to just kind of get clear on that and get honest with it, like, okay, that's what's happening, and how can we kind of change? And if you've been trying to reach your goals, lose weight, or again, whatever that is that you're working on, and this all or nothing approach haven't been working, now I think it's a good way to try something different. So it's really hard to break that habit of like, oh, if I want to lose weight, I have to go on that like 100% restrictive diet. There's no other way to do it. So it's really hard to switch that kind of mindset. But I think the very, very beginning is to really like, okay, let me just try something different. And instead of trying to be 100%, what about if we can try to be 80-20%? Or whatever that is, 90-10%. Or even with some clients, I just might even start, if they're willing to start very slowly, what about if we do even like 50-60%? And just kind of going from that. And that also allows you to have those moments when you're not perfect with it, you know what I mean? Or I also teach my clients how to plan your indulgences. So if you plan for it, you know it's coming. It's not that something that caught you off the guard and then you feel guilty. It's like, oh, I planned that dinner. This is something that it's in my calendar and I'm gonna treat myself. But after that, you're going straight back to your plan or to whatever plan you are, pretty much. And I think just switching that and allowing yourself to have those indulgences here and there can be very helpful to start getting away from that guilt.
Yeah, no, I definitely can relate to that. I know that like before I had kids, when it was just me and my wife, it was really easy to stick to a plan because my weeks were pretty similar. Monday through Friday I would do one thing, Saturday and Sunday we do something else. But now, like even this week, like my son was sick earlier this week, my wife wasn't feeling good, and so every day this week has been completely different for me. And it's been kind of hard because like yesterday, I had to go do one thing, ended up into a 3-hour chore. I was running around town. By then, I just picked up dinner from a restaurant because I didn't want to, by the time I got home, I didn't want to cook. It's an hour later, all these things. And so I think kind of like what you said there is just kind of getting back on track the next day. I think that's really hard. I think that's a hard mindset because once we do really good, we feel like we fail, right? We feel like that we've put all this work in and now we just ruined it with this one meal. But that's life. You're never going to have perfect weeks. You may have a really great week, but the next week, things are going to come up. You're going to want to go on vacation, go out of town with your family and things like that. I've done that before where I try to track my calories at like family meals and things like that, like going to visit, and it's not fun. Does it work? Sure, it works, but it's not fun. And I can't tell you how much I weighed then. I can't tell you how much I weighed after. And so that's something I know I work with my clients on is ironically, I've had like 5 clients all go to Disney World. And so that's something we've had to work through. None of them invite me, but that's okay. And we've kind of worked on, just changing your mindset to, you're going to remember this vacation for the rest of your life. Do you want to remember it of having a good time, or do you want to remember it of stressing out about going to these restaurants and stuff? Say you gain a couple pounds, most of it's probably water weight. You're going to Disney World, so you're walking around. So but that's a vacation. I went to Disney World when I was like 10 years old. I still remember it, and so it's like, it's something you're going to remember forever. How do you tend to work with clients who maybe they travel a lot? I know I have a couple clients who they travel almost every single weekend and stuff. And so Monday through Friday, they do pretty good. And, even people who don't travel, how do you kind of navigate those weekend meals?
Yes, that's definitely always the hardest. Any social events, I would say, right? Either you're traveling or staying in, or you're going out with friends, or have family gatherings. So I do that a lot with my clients, that in the end of the week or the last time I see them before for the weekend or the social event, we kind of come up with the strategies to help you. I wouldn't necessarily say to stay on track, but just do good by you so you feel good actually to enjoy you when you go out. So an example can be, if you're going to go out for dinner in the evening, how can we make the beginning of the day better for you so you're actually excited about going out? So what about if we can schedule a workout for you in the morning and having more nutritious breakfast, a little bit lighter lunch, so you can really go and fully be present rather than just feeling guilty or counting calories like you were saying, and beating yourself up even before the meal is over. And the same goes when the vacation comes, or where they have to go to the different restaurants. I help them to kind of look at the menu of the restaurant so they can kind of go into the restaurants, already know what they can choose from the menu so they can still enjoy it, but without making decision on the spot, because that can be also harder. And then that a lot of times that also leads to guilt and frustrations after that. Oh, damn it, again, I didn't stick to the plan. So I think in the very beginning, very important is, that's what I always teach my clients, to kind of plan and prep for your events. In the beginning, it's going to take a little bit more time, but when you get hang of it, it's just going to be easier for you to manage all of that stuff.
Yeah, and yeah, looking at the menu ahead of time, I think that's really key. I still do that. It makes things so much easier. At first, it's kind of it seems like a pain. It seems like a pain, but it only takes a couple minutes to look at the menu, and then I just work backwards from there. So I
Mhm.
know, like when we go out to eat, like I could eat out every single day. Try not to, but lately we've been just kind of like planning, one or two times, usually just once a week where we go out to eat, and so I make sure I enjoy it, right? I'm
Mhm.
making sure, like, I like steak, and so maybe that's something I go get. I used to always pass on a steak for chicken because it was a lot leaner. And then, I'm a little more hungry because it's not as many calories and stuff. And so I just started working backwards where I could
Mhm.
still enjoy this. And then the earlier in the day, yeah, like you said, I'm just kind of eating kind of less calories there, making sure you track it. Me personally, if I'm doing that, I track very diligently up until I have to go,
Mhm.
because I know that if I ate this much for breakfast, I ate this much for lunch, I had a little bit of a snack, now I have this many calories, and I can just go enjoy it and stuff. And you said too, like, if you make the decision when you're going, if you make the decision when you're, chances are it's gonna be it's gonna be maybe not the best decision. I know
Mhm.
if you let me make my own decision, the impulse, I'm gonna be finishing everybody else's meal there. But if I can plan and prepare before, then I kind of have an idea. And people too,
Mhm.
like, if you want to go out and maybe have a couple drinks with some friends or something like that, you can always plan that in there. It's like you said, getting away from that all or nothing. Just like, if if you love cheesecake, if you love a couple beers on the weekends with your friends or something like that, and you cut that out, sure, you're going to be able to do it for a while,
Mhm.
but you're not going to be able to do that forever.
No, and
And
you're right. Yeah.
no, sorry, go ahead.
No, what I want to say that, it's you living your life, and in the end of the day, at one point you're going to list that way, and then what's going to happen after, right? If you're
Right.
going to start introducing all of that suddenly, then pretty much I'm almost 100% sure everything's going to come back, because you're not changing your habits around it. You're not becoming a different person. You're just going to
Mhm.
go straight back to where you were before.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really hard. That's a conversation I had to have. Maybe guys are more stubborn, than women are, but I know that, I always have to have the conversation with, you can't go back to how you were living. If you want your results to stick, then you have to kind of disassociate with that, like we were talking about at the beginning. Because if you maybe you work with a coach for 12 weeks or 6 months or something, and you make a lot of great habits, and then you think to yourself, you have this mindset where, I only got 6 weeks left and then I'm done.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to constantly be going back and forth in this cycle, and it's never going to end. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why keto, it may work for some people, or low carb, low fat diets. It may work for a time, but it's very hard to stick to long
Mm-hmm.
term.
Mm-hmm.
Because if my son asked me to have a piece of cake on his birthday, I'm gonna have a piece of cake on his birthday, and I'm not gonna feel guilty about it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm cutting in a complete macronutrient group out, I just don't think that's sustainable. At least for me, at least
Yeah.
for most people, I don't feel like that's sustainable. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you work with clients who, um maybe aren't as open to feedback, maybe aren't as kind of open-minded, where, um, they found something. Because I think sometimes people hire coaches too soon. That's another topic. That's another topic. But I've worked with clients who aren't really ready for a coach. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we're working together, they don't give anything enough time to actually work, and
Mm-hmm.
they read another article, they say, oh, so and so told me to put this in my drink, and so I started doing that every morning,
Mm-hmm.
and I lost 3 pounds this week or something like that.
Yeah.
How do you work with clients who, I guess, struggle to trust the process?
Mm-hmm. This one is really hard, especially when you're coming right away with this, like, oh, I just want to get a quick fix, or I just want to get results very fast. And I feel for me, it's really important to set expectations in the very beginning of even us working together, right? Like, my goal is really to help you to reach your goals and stay there and sustain it for the rest of your life, this is not going to be like a quick fix diet. You can go, I think everybody can go on 30-day diets, but then what's going to happen after 30 days, that's really where the problem begins, because people don't know how to resume their normal life after they lose the weight. And when kind of presenting it that way, you kind of like, okay, well, it didn't work for me in the past, so now I have to kind of switch the perspective and how I do things. But there's still gonna be once in a while someone who comes to me that try to use, like you say, or maybe I would try keto or something. But again, like I said in the beginning, for me, it's very important to just set those expectations, and that's how it works. And the other thing is always to just remind the clients, because sometimes they put just so much on the trainer, on the coach. Like, you have a coach, so now you're gonna get this amazing results. Yeah. And as much as I am here, and I don't know if you can relate to that, but also setting the expectation that they have to kind of meet you halfway. Like, I can tell you to do the push-ups, but I cannot do them for you. I'm not there with you 24 hours to like stuff the food out of your hand. So also setting those expectations to kind of meet me halfway, trust the process. And also, I always said, commit to like at least a certain amount of time. And depending where the client is, depending what are the goals, let it be like 3 months, 6 months, again, whatever the goals are. And commit and try to do what needs to be done. And then you can go from there, rather than like, oh, it's going to be 4 weeks and you're going to see amazing results, because that's rarely a case. Right.
No, I think you're spot on there with, hiring a coach is awesome. I've hired many coaches for business and for my own programs as well. And I got caught in that too. I hired a coach and I thought, okay, things are going to be different. I'm going to feel better. But the work's still on me. The work is still on you. I kind of think of it as like going to school, right? You can show up to class every single day, but if you don't put in the work, you don't do the homework they assign, then you're really not going to get much out of it. Sure, you can get some, good feedback and maybe be able to kind of slide by and stuff, but the reason you hired a coach isn't because you wanted to slide by, right? You wanted to get great results. You wanted to change something. And I think that becomes almost like a mental thing, kind of like a almost just kind of a mindset shift. And I think, I don't know, I don't feel like I'm that old, but I've noticed with some of my older clients that that can be really hard for them. That can be really hard. I feel like, in the past, maybe even like 5-10 years, there's a ton of, literature. There's lots of research and stuff on mindset. And that's really kind of obviously a huge part of weight loss. It's a huge part of like fitness and everything. But I think that, like I said, I think guys are really stubborn sometimes. And so reaching out for help is already a big step. And so once they do that, it's hard. It's hard to want to kind of change so many things at once. How much does kind of mindset and kind of the mental aspect kind of play a role into your coaching?
Oh, it's like the biggest part of the whole thing. Because like I said earlier, you really have to become a different person. And I'm not saying, because for some people like, oh my God, now you're going to change me. It's not about that. But if you are overweight and you've done for a certain amount of years things that brought you to that place, we kind of have to undo it, because you're going to keep doing the same thing on autopilot. That's your habits. That's your daily things that you do without even thinking about it. So we really have to undo a lot of that stuff. So the mindset is a huge part. And a lot of my clients realize it until they start working with me, right? Because they're not going to come with me because I'm a mindset coach, because I just want to lose weight. I want to exercise and I want to eat better. But I do a lot of work like that, and really helping them to kind of get honest with and take responsibility for their action, which can be very hard. And for men and for women, for sure, to kind of realize it's nobody's else's fault that we are where we are, and just really owning it. When I kind of coach my clients through it, a lot of people finally had this like aha moments, like, oh, it's almost like, oh shoot, like, you have to kind of change and do something about it. But that's definitely a huge part of the whole coaching I do with my clients, for for sure.
Yeah, I know that's something I've definitely tried to incorporate. Just kind of change, like that kind of, you said that the all or nothing mentality. And how do you specifically do that? When a client comes to you, I'm assuming you have like kind of one-on-one check-in calls or something with your clients. How do you kind of implement these habits? Because like we said, it's up to the client. It's up to the client. Like you can only kind of give them the information. What they do with it, that's their responsibility, right? They have to kind of take ownership of that. So how do you work with clients to kind of set them up for not just success while they're working with you, but kind of like for the rest of their life?
Yeah. So something that you even said earlier, that you found with your clients that some people are very resistant to like change everything all at once. So I think that's a very actually important point to bring here. I always start with very small things. Like I can give them the workouts, I can kind of give them guidelines for nutrition, but changing their mindset and changing their habits, you have to really start very small, because you're kind of trying to break the habit of being yourself. I don't know if you read that book, but that's actually the same example. You're trying to break the habit of being the person you were before.
Yeah.
So I usually set very small habits, something that they are 100% comfortable with doing. And I always send them, they get daily reminders about making sure that they do the things they said they're going to do. And having those reminders for a prolonged period of time, it really helps them to eventually being that habit become a part of them. That's why I always explain it's not going to be a quick fix. It's going to take time in order for you to really like embody those habits and actually for them to become part of you. So that's why I said that, just setting those expectations. So yeah, so that will be my answer. Just setting those habits so they can notifications every single day to remind them about things that they say they're important for them and they really want to work on.
Yeah, and I think there's a quote. I'm going to mess it up here, but it's something like change is hard at the beginning, messy in the middle, beautiful in the end, or something like that. And I think a lot of people give up before the easy, but there's all this research on, does a habit take 21 days, 30 days, 66 days to become a habit? I don't think it really matters. Because when you do try and make change, it's going to be difficult. And usually the choices or the habits you're trying to form are going to be the most advantageous ones for you, are probably going to be the most difficult. If you're not a morning person and you try to get up, you're going to find every reason to stay up late at night. You're going to find every reason to hit that snooze button. If you're trying to work out, you can make an excuse every single day why you couldn't go to the gym, right? But when you start looking for the reasons why you can do these things, I think it becomes much easier. And once you get past that point, like it starts to become automatic, right? If stretching or yoga or meditation or something, like if you've never done them before, you're a 30 or a 40-year-old man or woman and you've never done these before, you've lived your life the same way for a very long time. Even if you did it every day for 3 weeks, it's not going to be a habit, right? It's if you got up at 6:30 a.m. every single day for your entire working career, getting up at 6:15 is going to seem like a huge hurdle, because it's just small there. And I think sometimes when we do try and change everything at once, it can seem overwhelming, and then we get right back to the all or nothing, right? Well, I couldn't change this, so now I'm just going to give up and do nothing. I'm not big on I've started to do more like meditation and things like this. And kind of the same thing for me. I've started it for a while and stopped, started it for a while and stopped. But one thing I learned with it is they kind of say the same thing, like take my thoughts go crazy. And one thing they always talk about is when you kind of lose focus, begin again. And so that's what I tell myself all the time. Just begin again. I tried to get up early today, such and such happened. My son was up, my daughter, things like this. I'll try again tomorrow, and how do you, I don't know specifically your clients. I'm kind of, if they're parents, if what they, I mean, I'm sure I know you work with all sorts of different backgrounds there, but what's the number one kind of issue that you have kind of found with kind of like time management or just kind of staying consistent?
Yeah. So that's actually for my clients, the time is always the biggest obstacle. And like I said, I work with high performing women. They're usually professional women working either owning their businesses or working corporate. A lot of them are moms as well. So they just juggling a lot of things. And like you said, life change like happens. There's so many different things that can occur. But as far as time management goes, very often we say like we're busy, like in the end of the day we all busy, and we're not really aware of how we're spending our time. Because I can like argue with every single person that they can find at least 5 minutes or 10 minutes in the day to do something for themselves. And until we're gonna get again clear on that, so I do a lot of like time tracking with my clients in the very beginning. A lot of people are very resistant to it. This is like a one thing that I can eat whatever you tell me to eat and all of that stuff. But tracking time is for whatever reason, very big resistance. But when we really own it and say like, okay, I'm going to do it, we just realize, and I'm not saying you're going to suddenly find so much time. I believe we're busy. I believe you're busy. I'm not taking that away from you. But when we start find those little moments that we can take to take care of ourselves, then we can start communicate with our family. And kind of, I'm not saying that we have to change everything, but just talk to your spouse and talk to your kids if they're a little bit older. If they literally, it's a different story, but if they're older, like mom or dad needs a little bit of like 10 minutes for themselves to meditate or do a workout or just sit in peace, right? Because I can only imagine how hectic life can be when you have little kids running around and you have to work and take care of all of that stuff. So definitely start with tracking your time and then communicate with people around you so they kind of understand what's happening, not that you're just throwing them on them and then your whole life it just is upside down, because that's very important to incorporate them and like include them in your plans too.
Yeah, the time journal, that's I think that's tough for everybody, because it kind of it puts that responsibility on you, like, hey, like I probably could have been more diligent here. And that's one thing, I did a live session in my Facebook group about that, where we talked about scheduling time for your wife to work out. Like, I'm really great at scheduling my own workouts, but I gotta let my wife work out too. And I don't really like the saying like, if I can do it, you can do it. But I know, like, for me, like I've had clients too who are, I don't have any time, I'm working. Okay, well, what's going on? And they kind of tell me their schedule and we kind of look at it. And like, I don't say this to them, but like, I teach full time. I have my own, I'm working 2 full-time jobs pretty much. I've got 2 kids and a wife. I work out 3 or 4 times every single week for 45, like,
you figure out. So
yeah, like if I really want it to happen, I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna get up early. There are things I want to do. If I really wanted to, watch a certain show on Netflix or Disney Plus, I'd make it happen, right? Because it's my priority. And I think that's just figuring out your priorities. Are your actions aligned to your values and things like that? And I think a lot of times the time journal can be stressful to people because they don't like to admit what they're actually doing. They don't like to kind of, I guess, take that responsibility on themselves, because if they don't acknowledge it, then it's not actually there.
It doesn't exist.
Right? It doesn't exist. Exactly. And I know that's something that I've struggled with in the past. My clients have struggled with. I know your clients have probably struggled with as well. For those clients, or for those potential clients who don't want to acknowledge the kind of their time journal, how would you recommend they get started? They're working a full-time job. They're doing all these things. They're burnt out. When they get home, they just want to lay on the, everybody wants to just sit on the couch, put your feet up, have a drink and eat some potato chips or something like that. So how would you recommend they get started?
So in situations like that, I kind of guide my clients through this 5 why exercise, when you kind of get really deeper into like, why are you even here? Like, why are we even having that conversation? So for a lot of parents, like dads or moms, there is a deeper reason. Like, yeah, you want to be healthy, you want to look good, but maybe you want to, be alive for your kids to make sure that you can play with them, or your grandkids, or whatever that is. And when you kind of get a little bit deeper into their like values, their priorities, and like what is really the driving reason for like even living or every single day, it kind of opens up their mind and opens up their eyes. And it's like becomes more, because losing weight, it's cool, but I always feel like this is a side effect of something deeper that we're trying to accomplish. So getting clear on that, what is your why, what is really your priority in life, and then people are like, okay, I will give it a try, and they kind of become a little bit more open to trying new things and seeing how they can make finally difference and change in their life.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Usually kind of the superficial answer. Well, why do you want to lose weight? Or why do you want to exercise? Well, I want to lose weight. It's really not motivating. It sounds great, but people are kind of afraid to say, well, I'm going to the beach in August, and I don't feel comfortable with my shirt off. Most people won't say that right away, right? You got to dig a little bit deeper there. And I think that's kind of a good practice for all of us, is just kind of take it one step. We all kind of struggle with motivation at time, but finding your why, figuring out why you want to do something, I think can be really helpful in kind of that long-term success.
Absolutely.
Well, Dorota, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. You are our first female guest on the Fatherhood Fitness podcast, and I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too. Before we leave today, if you have anything else you'd like to share with us, but also tell us kind of where you're from, because I think the show would be much more interesting if I had an accent. So
I'm originally from Poland. I actually moved 2 years in 2009. So I've been living in New York since then. It's been 13 years at this point. But yeah, I grew up and I was born in Poland. That's
awesome. Very cool. And where can people find you on Instagram? Not a TikTok star, though. She probably should post them on there, because her reels pop off like crazy. So where can we find you on social media?
So yes, I like to hang out on Instagram at Dorota Soto. And also I also love to hang out in my private Facebook group it's called Healthy, Happy and Fitter You. It's for women. So maybe your listeners, wives, they are trying to become a happier version of themselves, then I would love to have them in my community as well. But yeah, that's the two places that I hang out the most.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah, I will get the information from you and put the links in the show notes there. But thanks again for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
We will have to have you on again sometime.
Sounds good. Thank you.
That concludes this episode of the Fatherhood Fitness Podcast. Thank you for those of you who took time out of your busy schedules to listen. If you have any questions or comments or an idea for a topic for a future episode, please feel free to reach out, and I'd love to hear from you.